to start out with is this. This is the last picture we got of our local radar from the National Weather Service out of Lake Charles. If you've been up with us all morning long, we were watching the eye wall rotate into the National Weather Service at this exact moment, and luckily it happened to be at the time that the storm made landfall. But what we just found out is the radar that supplies data to us about tornado warnings, everything like that, is gone. It's shredded. It is completely gone. So for a long time, we are going to be without this. So this will be the defining image of this storm as Lake Charles once again went down there, and also at the same time took down our other radar, Fort Polk. Now we don't know the condition of that radar because it is connected to Lake Charles, so it sends, the information gets sent to the Lake Charles Service, Weather Service office. However, Fort Polk was right in the middle of this too, so we don't know what condition that radar is in either. So we could be without radar data here in the Acadiana and Lake Charles region for a very long time, and that is a serious situation for us because our nearest radars are Slidell, Louisiana, which only goes out to here, if we're lucky. Maybe more like here, it barely covers Lafayette. Shreveport, Louisiana, which comes down to about where Fort Polk is, if that, and then Houston, Texas, which comes over to maybe Beaumont, Port Arthur. So you can see there is a big hole that is now missing here of radar data that we won't know if there's tornado warnings, if there's things like that, until we can get these radars back up and in service. Our hope is that Fort Polk survived this and that they can get the communications back to Lake Charles up and running so that at least we'd have that one to cover this area here. But this is a huge hit for us in the weather community. So just leave that as a defining image for you there in the coming days. As of now, though, we barely have a hurricane. It is now a 75-mile-per-hour hurricane, but still, that is a 75-mile-per-hour hurricane in the northern part of Louisiana. You have Ruston and Minden right here along I-20, and it looks to split both of them here just in the coming hours. Now, what's interesting to note is that it has taken an eastward turn. You can see that eye turning here and going off more to the east, yet they keep the movement due north at 16 miles per hour. However, either way, this is moving along, so there's no concern about this slowing down and causing a lot of flooding or freshwater flooding at least. But the wind damage up here is going to be pretty bad. Basically, they're getting the winds that we saw here in Acadiana. So all of the state, a large portion of the state, is going to see a lot of damage from this storm. This is going to be one that we remember for a very, very long time. The only place that really didn't get as many impacts was southeastern Louisiana, and yet they're still getting some very heavy rain and also those tornadoes. So with that being said, there is some bright news for us in the fact that we're actually seeing some peaks of sunshine trying to break through the cloud cover out here. Although the low cloud's still rotating on in around that circulation, a much improved situation on I-10 at Ambassador from earlier this morning, where we were watching those power flashes off in the distance here as the rain bands rolled on through. Amazing what a couple of hours will do. Now, we told you that we don't have radar data. That's not entirely true. We do have what's called composite radar. So what they do is they take Shreveport, Houston, and New Orleans, and those three radars, they kind of combine them. And they combine what they're seeing way out here. And then to supplement the data missing in this area, they use satellite imagery. And they can derive where there's maybe some heavier rain based off a satellite. So all of that put together creates a radar picture that's helpful in the sense that we have something to look at, but we can't tell you if there's rotation on radar. So we can't tell you if there's a tornado or not on the ground. We really can't tell you exactly where the rain is falling because this is only a guesstimate by the other radars. So this is a huge hole that is going to be left over from this event. One of the good things, though, is that we have seen all of our flash flood warnings in Acadiana dropped. So no one is under those flash flood warnings anymore, which means that the threat has completely gone away. We're looking at least some of those showers continuing on the eastern sides of the area. But if we do see some of these bands later on this afternoon rotate back on in, we have saturated ground, which means that we could see that flash flood concern bump right back up. So we'll be watching that closely, but for the time being, that flash flood concern is gone. Now you do see that the green is still on here. Some radar products indicate that, you know, it's going to stay on until the official end time. But what I want to show you on here is the tornado watch that we have in effect, and that goes through this afternoon and only covers the eastern half, basically from I-49 eastward. Evangeline, St. Landry, Lafayette, St. Martin, St. Mary, and Iberia parishes included in that tornado watch. If you're in Acadia, Jeff Davis, and Vermilion Parish, we're not seeing that tornado watch anymore. Thank goodness, because we need to calm down and finally catch our breath after the morning we've had. Those southerly winds, they are continuing here. The Gulf of Mexico pushing on in, and that is going to keep that storm surge high for the time being, and then eventually turn more into what we call a coastal flood warning, where it's more of a 1 to 3 foot storm rise rather than the 6 to 12 feet that we've seen in some spots along the coast. We've gotten some pictures in from Intercoastal City of some flooding from the storm surge. We've heard about it in Abbeville. We've also heard about it from our live shots in Iberia Parish, right along and just south of Highway 90. I think Carter was headed down Jefferson Island, or towards Jefferson Island. We also know that Sycamore Point was reporting that rise in water here in the past few hours, and that is going to continue with these strong southerly winds. So we're going to see some impacts continuing off and on throughout the day. That surge 6 to 9 feet. And our winds out there right now, not as strong as they were earlier, but still seeing 25 mile per hour gusts at Lafayette, 32 in Morgan City, 36 in New Iberia. But when you compare that to the 70 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts we had earlier this morning, quite a calmer situation. Now, in addition to the radars that we lost, so we lost 2 radars out of this, we've also lost the reporting station at Lake Charles, which before it went down measured a 132 mile per hour wind gust. We also lost Ville Platte and Abbeville. So no telling how long those stations are going to come on, or it's going to take to get those stations back on. Everywhere else, we're looking at those 15 to 20 mile per hour winds right now. And our wind gusts will continue throughout the rest of your day. We're talking 40 to 50 mile per hour winds, still possible up towards Ville Platte, maybe as far south as Opelousas. But from here on out, those tropical storm force winds will be decreasing in nature, so we won't see it as wide across the area. The extent of those tropical storm force winds are going to start fading away and lifting to the north, following behind the remnants of Laura. Although this is going to be a powerful storm, even tropical storm through its journey over towards Tennessee. It's going to bring some very strong winds there and continue as it heads off the east coast in the coming days. But still, we're expecting some gusty winds overnight tonight, allowing us to finally get back into a rhythm of quieter weather here. But that doesn't mean it's all going away. We're going to have to watch these showers and some thunderstorms rotate on in later on this afternoon. You can see that there's going to be a band that lifts out of the Gulf of Mexico here, and by the time we get towards tomorrow, we are looking at a few more of those showers and thunderstorms continuing to push on through. And the rain totals, well, they'll be pretty impressive, but not as impressive as we were thinking. In the coming days, we'll pick up another 1 to 3 inches in general, unless you get under some of those heavier pockets where you could see up to 5 inches. Most of this, though, will be coming within the next 24 hours. So in all, it's an improvement. But still, there's a lot of things that are left to look over. And of course, we're just starting to scratch the surface of all the damage that has been done. You go over towards Lake Charles, where we've seen just immense amounts of damage. And as I mentioned, we are talking about the radar being shredded. We are talking about the buildings in downtown Lake Charles having most of their windows blown out. Structural damage to the Golden Nugget Casino, where our teams were stationed, and a lot of other media was stationed. One of our fellow TV stations had their tower collapse in on their building. So, you know, this is going to be one that these places really remember for a very long time. And one thing that we'll have to wait and see on, as mentioned before, you know, there's not a lot of coastal communities here. You got Pecan Island, you got Creole, and those are about the only 2 areas that could have really seen the full impacts of that storm surge. So it'll be interesting to see just how high we can actually find it to be. We may never really know just how high that storm surge was in certain places. But Alex and Taylor, it certainly was a very damaging storm, a scary storm, and we're already seeing the causes of why the radar went down.